Whisky is one of the great drinks of the world. And whisky is made in many different countries. It's made in India, New Zealand, Australia, Sweden even. But to date, certainly the best has come from Scotland. Now in Scotland, there are distilleries checkered all over the country, or in large parts of the country, along the River Spey, in the Highlands, in the Islands. And these whiskies produce, these distilleries produce spirit which is, has a range of different characters. The Island whiskies produce kind of salty whiskies. The Highland produce slightly rustic whiskies. Speyside are, I guess, perfumed and elegant style whiskies. Now, in Scotland there are really two ways that you can buy a whiskey. The first is blended whiskey and the second is single malt. Now historically, the blends have always been the lesser whiskies. It's always been where people have put, their offcuts essentially. With the single malts being where the premium whiskey comes from. But these days we have fascinating things happening in the whiskey trade. We have the independent bottlers coming in, people like Douglas Lang and Glencallum coming in and buying discrete parcels of whiskey and producing great blends and even better single malts. Now, if we're talking about tasting blended whiskey, a lot of people around the world will add Coke to their whiskey. They'll add mineral water, soda water to their whiskey. It doesn't really matter for blends. You can add whatever you want to it, but the way I would drink it would be with just a dash of water. So what we're going to have is we're going to have a sip of some 12-year-old Chivas Regal. Now Chivas is a pretty well recognised blend, and it's a whiskey that has lovely personality. Now when you're adding your water to the whiskey, you want a couple of drops. You don't want to add a pile of whiskey. And what water does is it basically opens up all the oils in the whiskey, and it allows the fragrance to come out. So with water we just add just a little tiny bit. It just opens it up. You can see in the whiskey, you can see the oils coming out. And this, Chivas is it's an elegant blended whiskey. It's something I've always enjoyed for its heathery characters and slightly spicy characters. But if we're talking about real whiskey, there's only one thing that a real whiskey connoisseur wants to drink, and that's single malt. That's whiskies that speak of place. And that's the thing about single malt whiskey. It's just like wine. A distillery produces a whiskey that tastes like the local water, and the barley that goes into it, and also sometimes the smoke that is produced during the peating process. Now, there are a whole range of distilleries you can buy from. There are the lowland distilleries such as Auchentoshan, the Highlands like Dalwhinnie, the Island whiskies you've got Highland Park and Talisker, and they all bring different personalities to the whiskey. Today what we're going to try is an independent bottling of whiskey from the Glencallum, and this is from Islay. Now Islay is in southwestern Scotland, and it produces a very characterful whiskey. Whiskies such as Lagavulin and Lafroig and Cailleach are Islay whiskies, and the character in them comes from the peat, the local peat bogs, which are not only used to smoke the barley, but are also used, the water drains through the peat bogs before it gets to the distillery and imparts the phenolics and the smoky flavours. Now, a whiskey like this, you can choose to drink it one of two ways. It's beautiful, neat, it's beautiful on its own, and you can swish around your glass and you can smell, the elegant smoky characters, and also the sweet sherry oak on it. But always, for the best whiskies, just a wee sip of water is just enough to make them show their best. This 12-year-old Glencallum has been chosen from a single northern Islay distillery. I can smell some sherry oak, I can smell some bourbon oak, and it's got smoky heatheriness. It's not, some of the Islay whiskies can be very medicinal and very iodine. We don't really have a problem with this kind of whiskey because the barrels that have been chosen for this are, more delicately flavoured, but you can't go past that smoky notes. And a whisky like this, you just want to roll it around your mouth and enjoy it for its smoothness and softness, but its character and personality as well. So that is the art of whisky drinking, and hopefully you can join us soon and share with us a glass of Chivas Regal or a glass of Glencallum.